see. If you have a question, you can raise hand. Okay. If there is no question, I have a comment here. If we would like to wrap up all these wonderful presentations, we had 4 different interesting titles. They are all provocative to open new thoughts and new applications that can be applied in practice and the architecture education and research. But the question here we have to ask ourselves, how can we make our students or our client of project or the owner of project or the user, how can we make his life happier? Now we are living very difficult circumstances on many scales, on many levels. So how can we let the experiences of Metaverse to make their life happier? How can we make the Metaverse technology with 3D printing, artificial intelligence, information management, these hybrid experiences can revolutionize the mechanism of design process. Here, I have comment here regarding the Metaverse. Is it popular now in the design education, for example, in the architectural design education? Yeah, if I ask the first presenter, Dr. Michael Giorgio, are you here? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Michael Giorgio, did you apply your experiment on the architectural design studio in Nicosia or not?
Actually, not yet, but we are planning to. It's a very young subject. We had this workshop actually last semester, and we are planning to have one more experiment, if you like, as part of this semester studio. We've pinpointed certain things that could be very beneficial, I think, for young architects or students of architecture, if you like. Especially this interaction with other people, that in a way you are, whatever you design is effectively exposed to much more people for testing. So I think that's one thing that we want to try out in the Metaverse. So, obviously, in other circumstances, you are exposed to your tutors, you are exposed to your fellows, to classmates, right? Your models, your work, in grids maybe to some specialists. But managing to have something out there, essentially it could be occupied, right? In the Metaverse, always talking virtually occupied, if you like, right? And tested and criticized by much more people. I think I find this quite interesting as a quality, right? And you can test things involving the public or future users or people that cannot physically occupy it yet. Another thing that seems interesting is this absence of the complexity of the physical world. So you can narrow down things into what it might interest specific studios or subjects, as I said earlier, especially in the early years. I want to focus on scale, or I want to focus on perspective, or I want to focus on shade and color. So I could run experiments in that sense. And of course, having something on the Metaverse requires specific skills, right? That the students need to have before they can actually prepare something and upload it in any of the platforms that are currently out there. So I think these 3 elements could be key in what we could test or attempt to test for the Metaverse in the near future. We would definitely share the results with you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Michael. So we have here one raising his hand, Dr. Usama Omar.
Yes, hi, I'm here. Thank you for this wonderful sessions and presentations. But actually, when we discuss together, me and my friend, in particular presentation number 1, can you explain for this question for main first author about the relation between environment management as a theme and metaverse, how we can relate it to each other, and how can metaverse applied in helping architect and designer for environment information management, like BIM, like in future, how it could be related. And the other question is, do you believe that gaming industry like Roblox and several industrial gaming can be interested for architecture students to apply metaverse in design? Roblox is a popular gaming now, and they can relate their design to metaverse and can help them to understand the virtual spaces through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Osama. Is anyone of the presenters want to reply, want to answer these two questions? Dr. Simon?
Okay, not a doctor yet.
Okay.
I'll be happy to speculate, maybe not answer on the second one, because I'm actually aware of many projects using Minecraft or Minecraft-like games. I think Roblox fits into that for education already, and also for participation projects where people who never used 3D modeling or never used CAD software actually are able to express themselves in 3D using the voxel modeling or simple approaches from Minecraft and Roblox. And I see this as a big opportunity. And also, I've read a couple of papers where even architecture students in the first semester used these kind of games to actually start feeling the sense of scale. And I think the results of those experiments were pretty positive. So I think those games should really try to actually extend themselves from the realm of being just a game into almost like a tool. And I hope that answers a part of that question, I guess.
Okay, Simon. I have a question for the presenter, Ahmed Mar'i. Are you here, Ahmed?
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding your research, I think that kind of research, maybe it needs multidisciplinary work from psychologists, neuroscientists, doctors, side by side with architects, to conduct such kind of research. I think we can make more research having the experiments from psychologists, because if you remember, if we open any game, at the beginning of that game, like Wii or PlayStation, they are asking you if you have any problems with your head, or you have any symptoms of neuro problems, disorders, please don't use that, or please don't make metaverse. So in your research, did you check that part as a medical part or not?
Yes, at the beginning, as I said, we had to get the approval of the Institutional Review Board. So they approved that this kind of experiment will have no effects on individuals. And that's why we also encouraged them to just walk away if they felt uncomfortable or they have any kind of symptoms. We also, we depended on previous research, but I totally agree with you that we need a multidisciplinary team to focus on that. However, the multidisciplinary team will fit into the background more of the different signals, or doing the medical research free of the experiment. However, during the experiment and after the experiment, since we are focusing on getting the results from the emotive software, which is developed by psychologists and different kinds of scientists, and we also have the option to train the model on different emotions. So, for example, we can say we can show a visual cue of a negative emotion and train the brain on the brains going on. So that's how we kind of train the emotion, or like try to mitigate this kind of effect you're talking about. But like, yeah, no, I totally agree with you that we need more of a multidisciplinary research team to focus on that. And this research, by the way, is like, it's in the very beginning. Like, this is our first trial with the EEG headset. But right now we're focusing on more details, and we'll probably have like something in COP, and like we're trying to figure it out still already. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. So we don't want to forget that this session is under the topic 2, which is information management. So information management or the digital information management can control the hybrid experiences in all the process. Yani it can change even the design process itself, in not only in future, in present, even in present. If we would like to start that with the clients, with the students, with the users, with the art beholders, because I know that Guzda Damla Turhan, she talked about art and how can we conserve the copyrights of artists through their the controlling their with the information management. Do we have any question here? Do we have any other question?
Yes, please. I have a question. Actually, one for Dr. Michael and another one for Ahmed. The one for Dr. Michael about the workshop, it's really interesting to involve diverse backgrounds into one aimed workshop. As you mentioned before, it requires skilled and skillful participants to participate in this workshop. I would like to know that you have this theoretical and the other part that is the technical. Did you divide the participant equally, and what was the background? Were there undergraduate students or like prerequisites for the participants to participate in this workshop? And I would like to know about the duration. How long does it take to enable to have this output, the one you presented earlier? Dr. Michael?
Yep. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the question. Actually, it was a test for us as well, right? So first, we really understood that that's a multidisciplinary domain that architects are actually a bit behind at the moment, right? So the first thing that we had to do is educate ourselves, to be very honest with you. So we did, as a group of faculty, their initial research. We invited people from different disciplines, gamers, people that are involved in the metaverse, some people that are writing articles on the field, that we are actually also participated in the workshop. So we tried and we bombarded, if you like, the students with a lot of information, from the basics of the blockchain to what an NFT is. So we had to open quite a lot in the beginning to show all the ingredients that are currently in play. Now, that was the theoretical part. Just to explain, if you like, the virtual side for which they're gonna design for. I mean, what are all these things are relevant? And I've shared quite a lot of things today in the introduction of the conference, like the lack of physics, for example, right? Or the idea of the avatar, or the history of the metaverse, right? So obviously this is not something new, right? So we are actually reinventing it and looking at it from a new, fresh perspective. So all these things, we spent actually the first 2 days. Okay, let me go a bit back and answer maybe the first question so we get this in a row. So the course that we used is an established course in our school. Is called the Catalyst. It runs for 1 week in the middle of the semester. So third-year students of the architecture department can take the course, right? So it's like a workshop. All other courses in the school stop, and we only focus in this workshop for 1 week. So is kind of an elective course, but most of the time students select this course. So the thematic changes every year. So we were able to use this course to run the workshop. Undergraduate students, third year, as I said, and the theoretical part involved all this framework and context that I talked about earlier. Now, the technical part, again, was mostly, we said, the argument is, okay, what are the tools that we and our students as architects currently are familiar with, and we can use them for the metaverse. And obviously we based our experiment on the tools that we are using throughout our teaching, which is the software that I mentioned earlier, Rhino or Grasshopper, but virtually could be any three-dimensional package if you like, as long as you manage to build this workflow from that package to the different metaverse platforms. We made an initial hypothesis that these are the pipelines, and we actually had the students try all these things and see whether they work or not. So part of the process of the studio is to test where these pipelines can lead us. And we figured out that they can lead in pretty much of most of the metaverse platforms that are currently out there. We focused in those three because of the time. So the workshop lasted for a week. 2 days were spent in analyzing, understanding, digesting all these things. And then the last 3 days, we were developing the various projects that the students were presenting at the end. It was pretty intensive. So the workshop ran from the morning until the afternoon, like an architectural workshop. Yeah, like long hours. Okay. Am I answering requests?
Yes, thank you so much. It seems like it's been challenging and difficult, and you have to do a lot of trials and tests, and to actually observe the students' integration and elaboration and collaboration, how they're going to digest this type of metaverse and VR within their known skills and tools as well. So I know it's difficult. Thank you so much. And the question for Ahmad, please. I'm kind of familiar with the EEG headset and understand that I would like to ask something about the 30 participants, where you do like some tests on the selection for the 30 participants, like they should have like a certain blood pressure, or a certain age category and background, whatever. I would like to ask about how you've been selecting these 30 participants. And another thing as well is that the result seems a lot like out of the architects. Actually, I find it difficult for me as an architect to interpret these results. How did you you reflect these results into architecture? What was the main future idea or the actual idea of interpreting all these results, which is non-architecture at all, into a real architecture application or practice, like you've presented on the first?
Oh, okay. So for your first question, the participant, we didn't have like specified blood test or something, but we had to compare the results of all participants to find like a normal range they all fall in. So for example, we had participants having like a very high kind of alpha signals, for example. So when we compare this to like the normality test or like the normal distribution of results, we find them a little bit lacking. So we did like a post-processing or modeling of data after getting the results rather than having a pre-test or something for them. We also take care of like the gender proportion between like the different participants, if they fell in like the same age, to compare different groups or categories as well. So like the short answer is no, like there's no like pre-test, but like the long answer, there is like an after processing kind of test. Okay, for the results, what we have now, we say that the EEG headset can detect emotion and responses to visual cues. So this is like the very first part of validation. How we can see this moving forward is that, for example, the research I presented at the very end, they saw how the EEG headset can detect our emotion in architectural spaces. So, for example, if now we know that it's validated, we can use the EEG headset. Maybe in the metaverse, we change some aspect and see how that reflects on the brainwave activity. And why we used like emotive or the low cost kind of portable EEG, because they have a dedicated software which gets us the results directly rather than going on the raw data of EEG. We get from them like their excitement level or their engagement level and so on. So like the general public or right away, us as architects, we can see through the information rather than going through a loop of like deciphering alpha and beta waves. We can see like the level of excitement. If we change like the size of window, are they more engaged? How they feel about the view? How they feel about the geometry of the space, whether they're relaxed or stressed, and so on. So that's how we can move forward with using EEG in like architecture spaces or metaverse or whatsoever. I hope that's answering your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Samar. I have just one final question for Céline Gigit. Are you here, Céline? Céline Gigit. And goes the Damlet Tourno? Céline?
Yes, we are here.
Okay. You said in your research that NFT technology can provide customers of a guarantee of ownership, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in the time or in the age of hacking, penetration, digital or internet penetrations, is it totally 100% guaranteed?
Salam, maybe I can answer this question. And you can add your thoughts afterwards. As I mentioned, there's a centralized version of network and a distributed version of network. So when you buy, for instance, gold from the bank, the system is very much open to hacking, actually, because there's a single server for the bank. But in the distributed network in which the NFT artworks are minted, there are a lot of users that are providing the infrastructure for the blockchain, and each user needs to approve the transactions. That's why the system can be hacked if more than 50% of the users get hacked. But there is something that is open to discussion is the websites. For instance, we conducted this research using Mintable website. So if this website gets hacked, then all of the NFTs can be transferred to the accounts without any permission. So that needs to be researched as well.
Okay.
And I also want to make a contribution to this response. In the current realm, the NFT is like a huge new thing into this virtual reality mediums. And as the human beings, we already have been used to the ownership, like the authenticity of the things that we can like actually touch in a tangible realm. It's like the identity that we give to as an authentication. But in NFTs right now, we only have like the digital aspects of it. So, and this like research, we just like focus on how can we just like increase the effects of like the authenticity in terms of like the having that the medium in the physical world, as like the 3D printing with the G codes as well, and having that like the object in your hand that you can actually physically touch. So that was our main purpose of goal.
Yeah, and once you have the physical model, no one can steal it unless a robber breaks into your house or so. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for you all. So I ask you please to look at the chat department, the chat. You can see there is a link If you access this link, that will lead us to a networking session. We can socialize, we can have network, we can discuss many things together. And now we are in a break. So do you have any other questions before we end this session? Okay, thank you very much for your lovely presentations.